Hi and welcome back to another video of jPlay. I am Marcus and today I'm doing another unboxing, and that's the first expansion of the Taverns of Tiefenthal, and that's the name Zimmer, which I guess best translates into vacancy. Before I start, huge shout out to all of my patrons out there. Really do appreciate all your support. And yeah, let's see what's inside the box here. I already removed the shrink wrap because this is really not fun to do that on camera. That's something I figured, so I did that beforehand. I also went through the instructions already, so at least I have some clue about what I'm talking here, or what I'm talking about here. So yeah, some Ziploc bags, some cubes for one of the wine expansion as far as I know, a lot of additional new cards. Yes, of course, the game comes with some rules, and basically just like this basic game or the core game, it also comes with additional modules which you can then in theory mix and match also with the different modules of the base game. And this is really something I don't like at all. Again, give us a game with all the rules in it. Don't give me too many rules, especially with the expansion. Things will get really tricky. If you can really make a module out of the base game and also having modules of the expansion, then you can even mix and match, and then really all those rules, I don't know. I don't like this at all, so I typically really then say, okay, I'm using all in. Maybe I will remove one of those modules in those things, but typically don't do that, designers. And yeah, we have some more components here, and I think I may want to show you some of those because there are some nice mechanics in here in one of the modules here with those, I think, orders. Yeah, for example, but again, I will have a more closer look in to the rules in a second, so I think I will walk you through module by module or so, and will then show you all the components that ship with those modules. So there's really not an awful lot, that comes with the expansion here, but it definitely adds a significant amount of depth into an already pretty deep game, at least when you're using some of the more advanced modules from the core game, which again I typically do. So yeah, I think I will let's go through that module by module, and I will show you the components that belongs to each of those modules. Let's get started. And the first module is the Song of Wine. Let's translate it into that. And yes, in case you didn't notice, I only have the German version of the expansion here. I don't even know if the English version is already out there or on the horizon. I don't know, but typically you can play this game perfectly fine using the German version of the game. Yes, you have to translate the rules. Some of those components now do come with some text on this. I will show these to you when we get there. I think that's one of the last modules, if I remember that correctly. But in this one here, we are pretty much looking at new cards, some new expansions for your tavern, and some of those cubes here. The first type of cards are those sommeliers here. You can acquire them like any other cards, in this case for 3 doubloons, and when you draw them as part of the evening when your tavern is filling, you basically put them aside, and then when everything has been done, so all your tables have been basically taken by your guest, then you check how many sommeliers you have. For one sommelier, you place 1 cube to the rightmost guest in your tavern, and for basically a second sommelier you would maybe draw, you are doing that on the 2 rightmost things. So they count as some kind of a wild card. So when you place those things on a card, let's use one of those noblemen here. You would place them here, and then they would count like a standard die. So this would gain you 2 coins. Keep in mind, you can only have up to 2 of those cubes. So any, let's say, sommelier you're drawing as part of your evening phase, beyond the 2 doesn't do you any good. But okay, that's what it is. It allows you to really repurpose your guests a little bit better, generating in theory more money to you. In most cases it's really money as far as I can remember. The second card are those quacks here. You can acquire them for beer. Yeah, they always want to drink beer, and they have pretty much 2 purposes. The first one is the easy one. If you use them for the gold coin, they will generate you 1 gold coin, which you can use then to whatever acquire, for example, the sommelier here. The second ability here, that's the more powerful one. This allows you to re-trigger the one-time effect of one of your guests. You remember in the base game there were those guests which allow you, or they come with a one-time effect, I don't know, advance you on some of those tracks or give you some additional cards. If you're using this, you can trigger this effect 1 more time. Of course, this needs to be a guest that's already out there in your tavern. But if you do so if you're using the second effect here, then you have to return the quack to the reserve and then you have to rehire him later on. If you use the leftmost ability here, then you can for sure keep it. So you can really wait until the perfect card shows up in your tavern before you say, now I want to use a more powerful ability here. That's the wine cellar here. This is where you're placing your cubes. Keep in mind you can never have more than 2 of those, and I think that's the reason why the game comes with exactly 8 of those. You can upgrade them like any other part of your tavern for 9 coins, and when you do so, they will more or less come with a pre-printed sommelier. So in theory, you only need 2 of those, and then you would be allowed to place your 2 cubes onto 2 or up to 2 of your guests in your tavern. And yeah, that was already the very first module, the Song of Wine. Now let's have a look at module B, and that's, I think, it's hard to translate actually. It's basically the vacancy part, and this comes with those guest rooms here, 4 of those priest cards, which you will put into your, I think, goes into your discard pile. Yeah, goes to your discard pile, so you cannot use them right off the bat. And 4 of those reservation tokens. And there's 1 room and 1 reservation token for each of the players in there. You will place these guest rooms on top of your tavern. It really fits, or everything fits into pieces very nicely. Really, it's really beautiful to look at. And you have in theory 4 of those guest rooms here, and unless it's not upgraded as part when your tavern is filling, you can place those nobles basically in one of your rooms, and you basically get to choose where to place them. So let's say I draw this noble woman here. I will place her in this room number 3. For example, my guest tokens, our reservation tokens, are always going into room number 2 here, but I can still place one of my noble men or women in there. And later on, when I'm then using basically one of those dice here, I can then get the benefit here. So here I can advance on this monastery track, for example. Here I'm allowed to use my token, so I'm allowed to draw an extra card into my tavern. That's really, really powerful. And then I can place my token, reservation token, on top of the card. And when I'm then returning all those cards later on, typically to my discard pile, a card that has my reservation token is one of the cards I can also now put back on my draw pile. Very powerful. Or here I can get more beer, or can advance my beer or money track here accordingly. I can upgrade this to the other side, which then allows me to place up to 2 noblemen or women into my guest rooms here. I still have to make a choice where to place them. But yeah, the effects then on the backside are pretty much the same thing. Of course, it's important to say that I cannot use a die on an empty room. I mean, that goes without saying. So if I place a guest here, I also need to place a 4 die on this here, and that goes for the other rooms here as well. So it definitely gives me some cool extra abilities, some cool extra options here, which, I mean, the core game, especially with some of the modules, already comes with a ton of different effects, and it really matters, or the timing really matters in respect to where you place those dice when you are triggering those effects. And I think this doesn't make things more easy, but definitely something I enjoy quite a bit. Let's have a quick look at those priests. And again, every player gets one of those at the start of their turn. And yeah, you can place a die with the number 1 here, and this allows you then to upgrade your monastery track by 1 accordingly. Up next, we have, I guess, the biggest addition to the core game, and that's module C. That's all about Innkeepers. And the Innkeepers give you pretty much, I would say, a more starting bonus. So you are now really represented by a personality. So they come with their special, let's say, starting abilities, for example. So this fella here, for example, gives you an improved guest book, which is way more powerful, offers you way more of those immediate bonuses when you start filling your guest books here, for example. I think there's also one with the improved prestige track here. So you always, or nearly always, get cool stuff. For example, in the core game, when you're using these reputation track here, this crown here is one space to the right, so you need one more step to score an additional nobleman or woman, which awards you 10 extra points here, for example. And overall, you're simply getting more and more stuff. Some of those, like this one here, for example, allows you to reduce the amount of beer you need to spend for your guests here. So any normal guest that you would acquire costs you 2 beer less, or if you're going for this 1, 2 or 3 nobleman, you only have to pay 8, 13 or 17 beer. So really powerful stuff. You acquire those as part of the setup. Either in a standard game you get 3 and pick 1, and then you hand over the rest to your next player. They will draw 1 extra, so you always have 3 to choose from. Or when you're playing with those starting cards, then you make pairs of innkeepers and starting cards, and then your first player chooses either an innkeeper or a starting card from one of those. Then basically goes around in circles until everyone has either an innkeeper or a starting card. Then we do the same thing again from the back, like from a snake kind of thing, and then you have to basically choose the other type. So if you already have chosen a starting card, then you have to go for an innkeeper, but maybe the one that you really like is then already gone. Really something I enjoy, or will enjoy a big deal, and something I'm really looking forward to. And I think the one cool thing, that's one of those innkeepers that comes with those dead papers here. You shuffle them, and again you have to remove those that have effects on them from a module which you may not be using. That's why I don't like these things at all with modules. But at the start of each round you have one of those, and then you can pick one. And this one here, for example, allows you to increase your reputation marker by 3, and all of those come with this nice little doubloon icon here at the bottom. So for whatever reason, if you don't want to go for this effect up there, which would be highly unlikely in this case, you can still cash it in for 1 extra doubloon. If you really want doubloon short to go for whatever, a very power move, you will acquire the perfect card or whatever it is, then yeah, you can always trade those in for one of those gold coins. And there are really a ton of different effects on those dead papers here. And I think with that being said, we are already moving into the final module of this expansion. And that's the village expansion, which also comes with a ton of stuff. I will show these to you in a second. Let's do that right now. And here we have order tiles, reward tiles. We have some order tokens for the player colors here. They are basically showing this on the front side and 5 points on the back side. So if you are able to fulfill one of those orders here, you can then mark those and they will score you each 5 points. At the end of the game we have parts of a scroll. This is how you will then put things together. I will show that to you in a second. Here we have some mayor cards which you can also acquire throughout the game. And the way how this works, as part of setup, you're using 3 of those orders, 3 of those rewards. You can really freely mix and match those. They are double-sided, so they have a reward on the back side here, on the front side, and a quest or a mission or whatever order on the other side of things. And again, you can mix and match. And then you have 3 orders on the left side and 3 rewards on the right side. And I think, let me show this to you how this will look like after setup. And that's how a typical setup could look like. Again, we have 3 of those orders here on the left hand side, 3 of those rewards on the right hand side, and whenever something happens that would allow you to trigger that, you can do so. Here, this one here says, for example, that's the only piece where you really need some German knowledge here, but again, not really a big deal. This one tells you as soon as you have removed 1 guest from your tavern, and it needs to be one of the guests that you have acquired in the game, you can then say, let's say I'm a red player, then I said, okay, I have done that, I will place my token in here, I will flip it to the other side. So this really tells me I will score 5 points at the end of the game, and I can also one time use this bonus here, and this says I can completely fill my treasure vault up to its maximum. You start the game with up to 2. If you remember that, if you upgraded this in a previous turn or so, you can fill it up to 5. So this can be relatively powerful. Using this ability or not, you will always score the 5 points here at the end of the game, so it will never be lost. And that's pretty much how all those orders here work. It really something in respect to the timing, but no one can take something away from you. So if I'm go here first or last, doesn't really make a difference. So if blue makes it here too, we are doing the same thing. We are flipping this to the other side. Blue will also score 5 points, and then they can also use this ability once, and then you remove it from here and move it to your player board just to show that you have used the special effect from this reward tile here. When you have completed all 3 of those quests, of those missions, of those orders here, you will then be rewarded with one of those mayor cards, which you can then place on your draw pile. You get her special ability immediately, so you can upgrade one of your tavern tiles for free, or you can hire a permanent employee like the dishwasher, for example, or the beer maiden. I don't know if that's the proper term, but you don't get any nobles as a reward for that. It's still a great way to improve your overall tavern, your your engine, but yeah, you don't really score any of those nobles, but will definitely help you. And then later on you can use her as a standard guest here, and when, let's say, you're placing a die with a value 4 here, she will also generate 4 coins to you. So that's really a very, very powerful card to have. And combined with the quark, for example, if you use the quark on the mayor later on, yes, you can trigger it twice. So this can be a very, very powerful combo. Obviously, of course, you have to time things correctly that both the mayor and at least one quark appears at any given night. And yeah, that's pretty much Vacancy, the first expansion for the Taverns of Tiefenthal. And I might do a playthrough of this one, maybe a 2 or 3 player playthrough with all the modules from the core game and from the expansion here. Will take me some time to play this through, but maybe this gives you a little bit more of background on how to use all of those modules. I'm not even sure if you're using all the modules from the core game, if you ever play Taverns of Tiefenthal, that is. I typically do, so I might want to do things similarly here for this expansion here, because for me it really makes things much easier than to say, okay, I'm using 3 modules from the core game, I'm using 2 modules from the expansion, then I have to see which of those components I have to remove here, for example, some of those reward tiles or whatnot. So I'm typically then someone who says, okay, let's play it all in, but I think it's really manageable. It might sound confusing, and yeah, the first time you play this game, maybe let's not shuffle in, or let's not use all of the modules from the expansion, just go with the base game. But as soon as you played the base game once or twice, you're totally okay adding a lot more depth to your game and simply say, okay, let's maybe add all the stuff from the core game, and then maybe 1-2 sessions later you can also say, let's add in all the extra stuff from the expansion here too. I hope you have enjoyed my little walkthrough slash unboxing. Not really an unboxing, but almost close to review, I say, but still I unboxed it to some extent. And yeah, hope to see you soon in one of my other videos, and yeah, until then, bye bye.